Indiana Jones 5 is coming out this summer. How many of you guys, real quick, how many of you guys enjoyed what they did to Han Solo in Force Awakens, or what they did to Luke and right? No, that was Rise of the Jedi. No, whatever. TLJ, The Last Jedi. That's what it is. God, why was I forgetting that? Anyways, how many of you guys like that? How many of you guys like that? None of you? Neither did I. Because, to quote from Bounding End Comics, James Mangold admits he's maligning Indiana Jones' character, says audience will have to readjust and retool their brains for this guy. He's going the whole route of turning him into basically pathetic, not into adventures anymore. We've already seen part of that. He's going the whole 9 yards, though. He is going entirely into it. And, oh man, this is going to be a massive bomb. $350 million, I think, went into making this movie. Maybe more, because they did get a Super Bowl thing. But let's read to this. Speaking with the Hollywood Reporter, Mangold stated, "We can't hide from where we are in our lives. None of us can. And neither can Indiana Jones." He elaborated, "I wanted to follow Harrison's own lead and simply deal with it straight on. It's not just a movie about a hero in his twilight years who is called back into action. It's more than just that his bones might ache. It's that his soul might ache, or that some of his optimism since fitting into a world might have evaporated. Since fitting into a world the world might have evaporated." I got that right. Okay. It just said weird. Mangold then justified his decision to malign the character, saying, "The mistake you can make in movies, and we've all seen movies like this, is where someone is on ripe age, but the entire movie is continuing this charade along with them that they're not that old." But this is the thing. This is escapism. It's fun to have an older character kick ass. But I go to Bullet Train. Bullet Train, fantastic movie. Highly suggest people watch it. One of the characters in that movie is called Elder. Well, that's his code name. In it, he's an older Japanese dude. He's had damage to one of his legs. He had a whole storyline. He is older, struggles, has to walk with a cane. Dude kicks butt. Fantastic character, fun character, enjoying character. Dude kicks butt. I don't even have to go. I could give you another example. Top Gun Maverick. What happened in Top Gun Maverick? You have Maverick come back, older, not as young, not as spry, not as hip. Guess what happened? He kicked butt. He was awesome. He was still amazing in the movie. You can do this just fine. You just don't want to. You want to make him more nihilistic. You want to make him more aged up and cynical. Screw yourself. We already had that with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was crap. But speaking of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, that comes back up because Mangold would further reveal he's moving away from the tried and true action-adventure formula that led to the success of the original Indiana Jones trilogy. Oh, we'll get to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull again, don't you worry. He said, "The first 3 Indiana Jones movies took place in roughly the same period. They're all easily fit with the serialized, theatrical, almost screwball action style of the movies that were being released in the period they are set in." Mangold then posited, "The challenger for director Steven Spielberg on Crystal Skull, and for me on this one, is how do you move forward into a new decades where the world is no longer seen in such a clear demarcations of black and white and good and evil, where the whole concept of raiding tombs and fighting over relics is looked at in a different way. It's not about changing the story, but allowing the character to experience how the world has changed around him. You are changing the character. You are changing the story. You are changing what is Indiana Jones. They did this in freaking Crystal Skull. You're trying to say, well, Crystal Skull, they did this, so I'm going to do a similar style. How did Crystal Skull turn out? How did Crystal Skull turn out? Nobody likes it. It is one of the worst movies ever, and people only acknowledge the first three. Why do people like the first three? Why? Because they were this. They were cleverly written. They were action movies. They were adventure movies. They had good and evil. And no, sometimes the good and evil line was blurred, actually. Some characters double-crossed. Sometimes you questioned whether or not this was the right idea. Go to the third one. Not Raiders. Why am I forgetting the name of the third one? Crystal Skull is garbage. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the first. King Doom is second. Why am I blanking on the third one right now? God, I hate doing this. But in the third one, you have a character double cross him. You have a character who was seen as a good person and a sidekick double cross him. So no, the lines of good and evil weren't so black and white. Mangold went on to push the idea that everything is gray now, and somehow in the past it was all black and white, which is any historian worth his salt would point out is a complete and utter lie. He told the Hollywood Reporter, and our perceptions of politics is more gray. Who is a villain? Who are we working with? Who are we fighting against? Proxy wars, all of that. It's not as simple as the era around World War II. It wasn't simple back then. You didn't know who to trust. You didn't know who to work with. For crying out loud, in a lot of the first one, he was being hunted down by unknowns. What happens to a hero built for a black and white world when he finds himself in one that is gray? It's a problem that produces humor, produces contradictions, produces adjustments that this character is going to have to make. I don't want to see it. Oh, but he then admits that why he's de-aging him. Why is he de-aging Indy? Because he wants people to remember the good Indiana Jones. He wants you to remember that. Speaking to that fact that actor Harrison Ford will be de-aged, and the opening of the film shows Jones in his glory days, Mangold said, it reminds the audience of the contrast between a hero in his physical prime and a hero at 70. No, what you're doing is you're trying to use member berries, show us what we liked about Indiana Jones, show us a great Indiana Jones, peak of his prime, strong, defiant, able to do everything, perfect action hero, imperfect action hero. But you want people to remember the good stuff before you go full TLJ on this thing. That's what you want. We're not relying solely on the audience's memory of the previous film. Yes, you are. It reminds everyone what he's done, what he survived, what he's accomplished. But that is relying on the past. You're relying on the past to torch it. By showing him in his most hardy and then finding him at 70 in New York City, it produces for the audience a kind of wonderful whiplash of how they're going to have to readjust and retool their brains for this guy. No, what you're trying to do is you're trying to use the past to justify your changing. You're trying to use the member berry trick. You know, we've seen this member berry trick time and time again. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to ease people in with, hey, don't you remember the good stuff? Don't you remember Raiders of the Lost Ark? Don't you remember Temple of Doom? Don't you remember Quest for the Holy Grail? I just got the name of the movie. Don't you remember all those? Forget Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Remember the good stuff. Remember all the good stuff. Before we Kingdom of the Crystal Skull this, but 10 times worse. His past is a live memory for the audience, hanging over a man who is now living with anatomy in a world that no longer cares or recognizes the things he felt so deeply about. You're left with a multi-layered perception of his character, both what he was and what he is, and how the world is different between the first 20 minutes of the movie. You're still utilizing member berries. You say it right up here. We're not relying solely on the audience's memory of the previous film, but you just said you were. You just said you basically were. You want people to remember everything that came before Luke, before Disney, essentially. Before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. This is J.J. Abrams coming out and saying, we're going to do it right this time. This is that. This is him, invoking the name of the Crystal Skull, trying to compare it to the Crystal Skull for one, but then at the same time trying to say, we're not trying to use the past movies to member bury people in, but you are. You blatantly are with all this. You are more than happy to use member berries just before you go full TLJ on this. Go full J.J. Abrams, TLJ, all 9 yards. This is going to be a disaster of a movie. I don't think this movie would do well because you're only as good as your previous movie, and technically the last Indiana Jones movie was Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. How did that turn out? People only acknowledge 3 movies, but let me get your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it out with your friends, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for every time I put out a new video and go live, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye for now.